Okay, good evening, Professor Kirian. This is my response to session 5 for finding my voice. As you can see, I'm losing my voice. But this is in my response to looking at an issue that we've discussed from 3 different perspectives. I was looking at the COVID vaccination from 3 different perspectives. One from the government and big pharma, 2 from the low socioeconomic communities such as and minorities such as African American, brown, and black communities, and then from a reformer's perspective. So we know that this is a huge issue and in regards to COVID vaccination, that just the disparity in healthcare among people in low socioeconomic areas has been a topic of conversation today. And so looking at it from a healthcare perspective, there is a lot of money. There has been different reforms. You know, you have the Affordable Care Act, as I stated, not Obamacare. You've had Medicare, and all of these were built or constructed to address those particular issues to meet the demand of people who couldn't afford their private insurance, when that necessarily wasn't the solution. As we can see, that was a failure when we entered into this pandemic, where people were covered either through their work insurance or through Medicare. It became a strain on the healthcare system. Something had to be done in order to ensure that everyone was either tested or vaccinated, something that we have not seen since the Spanish flu in this country. And so it highlighted a lot of areas and for reform in the healthcare system that wasn't primarily addressed in just one particular reform, Obamacare, whether it was the Trump Act, or now we're looking at reforming the Affordable Care for All, I think is what it's called. And so from that perspective, it just takes a lot of money. But what I was looking at from the New England Journal of Medicine, and that stuck out to me, was that the writers were looking at this as an opportunity, whereas we could see a failure. A lot of times you don't see those opportunities unless you fail. Unfortunately, it cost us over 500,000 Americans. And then the sad part is that in this next perspective would be coming from the African American community, in which a lot of those deaths and infections were 3 times as much. The percentage was at 66% of African Americans per capita. Black persons constitute 13% of U.S. population, but account for 20%, of COVID-19 cases, and more than 22% of COVID deaths as of July 22nd, 2020. That is the highest in any community per capita in the United States. And so coming from their perspective is, while it does cost and there are complications, this disparity is huge. This disparity has been evident and clear for a long time. This didn't just happen because of COVID. The COVID just exposed it. And so maybe, at this point it gives them a voice, or for the rest of the world to see that people are not complaining because they're poor. They are poor because they just don't have the resources, whether it's education, whether it's housing, whether it's just civil rights that they need in order to live a successful life. And unfortunately, that affects more in brown and black people, or in communities of low socioeconomic communities, than it does the rest of the world, or the rest of the middle class, or the other United States citizens. And then from the third perspective, I looked at it from reform. So as we look to, we've seen the problem, we identified it. Hey, this is, it's not a problem that's too big to fix. It's not like Big Bank or anything that's not a problem to be fixed anyway, but it's not a problem that you can't divide and resource and allocate out in order to fix certain aspects of it. But it has to address all Americans. It has to provide some type of health care or an opportunity to purchase affordable health care for people who are at risk and people who are, as far as pre-existing conditions, or who are at risk, who work in areas where they're more exposed, whether housekeeping, transportation, and these are areas where most of your brown and black United States citizens work. And so there needs to be something to address it, to protect them, to ensure that they are covered as well. And with that reform, they were looking at what does, is it private insurance? Is it healthcare for all? It doesn't look like, and not characterize it as socialism, but to actually provide health care for those who are unable to afford it. Being that they make up the largest part of the working class in the United States, we owe it to them, in my opinion, to at least provide. The least we can do is provide health care. And as the Word of God teaches us, and I looked at Matthew 25, is that truly I tell you, what you do for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So as we as Christians, we look at it that we are providing for the least. So when I teach a class, I'm looking at my base is based on the least amount of knowledge in that class, and that's the level I teach it to, and then I incorporate everyone else's knowledge. Same thing here, as we look at the least of them and cover them down and establish that foundation and then build up, then then we can start to attack issues like cancer and maybe high blood pressure, COPD, and any other health issues, but not until we address those that need us most. Thank you.